basically now, if you have a Bluetooth or want to connect your device via Bluetooth, you now can with Android 15. To break all this down and explain it a bit more, because it's a little bit of a difficult story to understand, certainly from my point of view, it's been very difficult to understand. Matthew Horspool's here from the Braillists Foundation. Good to have you here, Matthew.
Good to be back on the program.
Yeah, listen, great to have you here, mate. And help us out here with this, because we hear that Bluetooth support, or Bluetooth HID support, is coming back to Android 15 for Braille users. Tell us what this means, and does this mean that finally anyone who has a Braille display can actually connect their Braille display via Bluetooth to an Android phone?
I think so.
Okay.
You called me an expert. I'm not sure if I'd call myself an expert. HID Braille is a bit of a mystery to me, but I've been doing some homework and I think I've managed to unpack it a little bit. So, it only affects certain Braille displays. So actually, if your Braille display works with Android already, it's going to keep working with Android. There's no problems there at all. It largely affects the Humanware displays. Actually, it largely affects the Brailliant BI20X and 40X, the Mantis Q40, the Chameleon 20, the NLSE readers, if you've got any listeners in the US. It's those sorts of Braille displays that this really affects. And there are other displays that support HID as well, but they generally also support the legacy serial protocol that Android used to use. So it's really the Humanware displays that it's this affects. And it is good news, because for a long time, Humanware displays have not supported Android at all. And there's been a bit of a tug of war, it's fair to say, between Humanware and Google as to Google said they would support HID Braille, so Humanware took them at their word. Google didn't support HID Braille, and so there was then, well, is Humanware going to support Google, or is Google going to support Humanware? And it looks like we're getting to the point now where Google is going to support Humanware and all other HID devices, and this is a good thing. So yes, eventually, over the next year or two, by the time everybody gets their Android updates, hopefully Humanware displays will be supported, and other HID displays will be supported on Android, yes.
Yeah, the key here is Android 15, right? Because you need to be on Android 15 and TalkBack 15 to get this update. So, of course, some phones may not get that. This is, of course, the joy of the ecosystem that is Android, where some phones will not get that update. They may still be stuck on 14. So you need to get this update, correct?
Yeah, so it's a bit confusing, but I think the way that this works, actually, it's the same on computers. If we go back really, really to basics, and we talk about Braille displays and Braille display drivers, on a computer, you need two Braille display drivers. On a computer, you need two Braille display drivers. You need the driver that tells the computer that this is a Braille display, and you need the driver that tells the screen reader how to drive it. So you'd have a USB driver, for example, and you'd have a JAWS driver, or you'd have a USB driver, and you'd have an NVDA driver. And a lot of the time you don't see this because Windows has a lot of USB drivers in it already, and so do the screen readers. You typically don't need to install an NVDA driver because the NVDA driver exists already and is just installed with the core NVDA package. But nonetheless, it has to be there in order for it to work. And it's the same actually on all platforms. In iOS, we don't see it because, iOS and VoiceOver are so tightly integrated. But we're starting to see this now on Android, where Android 15 now has the operating system driver, if you like. At the operating system level, it supports HID. It's done its bit. Now TalkBack 15 needs to come along and take advantage of that operating system driver and build a TalkBack driver on top.
Wow. Okay. This is so confusing, I'm sure. I mean, why does it work with some Braille displays already and not others? And does it have to be Android 15? Isn't this actually built into something like, I don't know, Brailleback or TalkBack Suite?
The screen reader driver part is built into TalkBack Suite and Brailleback, I think, yes, but not the actual software part. So that the screen reader, if the screen reader can find a HID Braille device, then the screen reader can operate it. But the screen reader can't find a HID device because the operating system isn't exposing the HID device in the first place. So you need to have Android 15 in order for the operating system to expose it. And then you need to have TalkBack. I think it might even be 15.1, but I can't remember exactly about that, but you need to have the latest version of TalkBack, essentially, which then knows how to deal with the fact that the operating system has now exposed these extra displays.
And to be clear, you can and could always connect via USB-C, right? So if you wanted to, you could plug it in directly.
Yes. Yes, and I've done that, not to an Android device, but I've done that to an iPhone. And it's quite an interesting experience. I don't particularly enjoy doing it because I feel like I lose a lot of portability once I've plugged a Braille display in via USB-C.
Yeah.
But it is an option, and it does actually work quite well, I've got to be honest.
Yeah, in theory, it should always work, right?
It just seems so strange we're at where we're at with the development of every OS, to be honest, and we're still sort of running across these problems. I mean, HID has been around for the longest time, and yet we're still playing catch-up for Braille displays. It just seems such an odd situation to be in.
Yeah, I think it's because up until now, it's been a bit of a chicken and egg situation. Up until fairly recently anyway. In that, yes, HID's been around for ages, but no Braille displays really kind of went all in with it and said, we're going to support HID and nothing else. And so that's allowed the operating system people to be a bit lax about it and to be a bit complacent and to say, well, no displays really need HID at the moment, so we don't really need to do any work to make HID work on our devices. And then Humanware came along and said, no, actually, we are actually going to stick to our guns on this. We agreed HID years ago. It's about time people actually stepped up to the mark and did something about it. But then obviously it took a while then to get HID properly onto the development roadmaps. And so, yeah, here we are. But I agree, actually, it's very frustrating that this is the position in which we find ourselves. But I'm pleased that finally we seem to be breaking the deadlock on it, and we do seem to be getting some movement.
I just want to throw in I like to throw something into the mix just to stir up the pot a little bit, because why not? I've been using my Braille display on a Mac, and I love it, Matthew Horspool. Am I doing everything wrong?
No?
Say yes. Say yes, Matthew. It's easier.
I'm glad. I mean, yeah, you're doing everything wrong because you're using a Mac. I mean,
that is well, it was lovely having Matthew with us. I can't believe what happened there. I think he's just got cut off.
But no, I don't think so. No, I mean the Mac. I mean, Apple devices have supported HID for a long time. The Brailliant BI20X, the Mantis, they've supported iOS out the gate pretty much, and so yeah, it's not a surprise to me that they also support the Mac. And yeah, I'm glad it's working. Yeah,
no, it's working great. But, I'm joking around, but we'll say as well, trying to connect sometimes with Bluetooth with these devices can be challenging. I mean, on the Mac, I've had various issues trying to get the Mantis Q40 to connect. It does work. The problem is often when you go into the pairing mode, it kind of appears to the computer and immediately tells you there's a device trying to connect with your computer. And no matter what I do, I cannot get rid of that message. Even if I say connect, it doesn't pay any attention to it. What's it like?
We have similar problems on Windows.
Well, I was going to ask you that. What's it like on Windows?
Yeah. And I mean, this goes back to what I was saying earlier on about the system driver and the JAWS driver, the system driver and the NVDA driver. We have countless problems with this whereby somebody will say, right, well, I've installed my Mantis into JAWS and I've told or NVDA, but JAWS is a particularly egregious one. I've installed it into JAWS. I've told JAWS that it's on Bluetooth. Why is JAWS not picking up my Mantis? Well, did you pair the Mantis to the computer in the first place? Oh, wait, no, I didn't. So then, of course, you have the opposite problem. People pair the Mantis to the computer, but then they don't then go and activate the JAWS driver or the NVDA driver, and then they wonder why the screen reader's not working. And screen readers are doing some work in this space. There was a JAWS update a couple of years ago now, actually, that vastly improved auto detection of Braille displays over both USB and Bluetooth. And I'm sure NVDA does very similar. It has an automatic Braille display mode. But it is a problem. You have to make sure that the Braille display is paired on the computer and that that the screen reader is told to use it. And if one of those steps goes wrong, then the whole thing will fail.
Now, there's a lot of people who I think will have Braille displays today as a result, especially in the States with the Chameleon 20, getting it through the NLS.
The e-readers.
E-reader, yeah. So getting access to that means that many people who may never have had a Braille display will want to connect up. Resources I often find are rather interesting and challenging because you either get a 7,000-page manual that you have to try and work your way through, and I am not academic in any way. I'm just looking for the how does it work bit. And And of course, that's not great for a lot of people, but I do want to mention the Braillists Foundation, because of course that's where you're from, you're part of that, and it does great work in providing resources, really useful resources. Tell us a little bit about the work you've been doing there, because for people who, and I know many people will know about it, they'll have probably heard of it, but those who haven't, tell us about the resources you have on this kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. I feel like I ought to defend my 7,000-page manual a little bit.
You try, but I have no interest. I guarantee you. I'm not going to read it.
Well,
you read it. I'm not reading it.
No, I know. All I want to say is sometimes you have to write a 7,000-page manual because it involves 7,000 steps, right? Sometimes it actually is quite a complicated process to get this stuff up and running, and so sometimes you just can't distill it into 30 seconds because there's too much information to try and get into that amount of time. So we try and keep our resources as short as we can, but we will make sure that they're long enough to explain what's going on. And I mean, it's not 7,000 pages, but I think I did do a 7-page one once. Not
7 pages? What do you think I've got all night?
Yeah, not necessarily. I think this was quite a technical one on like BRF files or something, but yeah, I did do
Don't
quite a lot.
defend yourself,
But anyway,
Matthew. It's fine. You just ignore him. You carry on.
Yeah, all right. Braillists.org. So we do all sorts of Braille-related things. We do a Braille for Beginners course. We do a book club. We do masterclasses. The session that I would highlight in particular on this program is the Braille Bar. We do the Braille Bar on the 2nd and the 4th Tuesday of the month at 7:30 p.m. in the UK. That'd be 2:30 p.m. Eastern, setting aside time changes and things. And the reason why I highlight that is because the Braille Bar is kind of an open, drop-in Q&A, ask us anything kind of session. And we did actually do some sessions on Braille displays and JAWS, Braille displays and Bluetooth, and so on. If you dig back through the archives, you'll find them. But if you've just got a question and you want to go, actually, do you know what? I've got this file, but I've got stuck on this, or I've got this device, does it work with this Braille display? Then turn up to the Braille Bar and ask us, and either we'll be able to answer it in 2 minutes and job done, or we might say, actually, look, do you know what? We've had 5 or 6 people asking us about this in the past 2 weeks. Maybe we ought to do another masterclass about it.
Yeah, here's a 7,000-page manual.
Braillists.org
is where we'll find you.
And Braillecast.com, could I also say. Braillecast.com. That has various things on it, including recordings of all of our previous masterclass sessions. So anything you want to look up recordings for, if you go to Braillecast.com and just put in the search field at the top, whatever you're looking for. So JAWS and Braille, setting up Braille, iOS and Braille.
Fantastic.
Pop it in the search box and it'll come up.
Matthew, as always, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your news on this. And we will talk to you soon.
No worries. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Matthew.